Your thoughts create your reality because every action you take begins as a thought. Before anything shows up in your physical world, it is first repeated silently in your mind. The way you think when you wake up, the words you say to yourself during difficult moments, and the beliefs you hold about what is possible all work together to shape your decisions. Most people are living on autopilot, replaying the same negative thoughts every day without questioning them. They think about fear, lack, failure, and limitations, and then they wonder why their life feels stuck. Napoleon Hill explained that the subconscious mind does not judge whether a thought is good or bad. It simply accepts what you repeatedly feed it. When you constantly think you are not good enough, not smart enough, or not capable enough, your mind starts looking for evidence to prove those thoughts true. You hesitate. You delay. You avoid opportunities. Over time, these small mental patterns turn into habits, and those habits quietly shape your entire life. When you deliberately choose new thoughts, everything begins to shift. Thinking with purpose means you stop allowing random emotions and outside opinions to control your inner world. Instead of reacting to circumstances, you begin directing your mind toward what you want. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means deciding what reality you want to move toward. When your thoughts are focused on growth, confidence, and progress, your actions naturally follow that direction. The mind is powerful because it influences how you see challenges. Two people can face the same situation, yet one sees an obstacle while the other sees an opportunity. The difference is not intelligence or luck, but mindset. A trained mind looks for solutions instead of excuses. It looks for lessons instead of reasons to quit. This mental shift may feel uncomfortable at first because it requires discipline, but repetition makes it stronger every day. As you control your thoughts, you also change your emotional state. Confidence, motivation, and clarity begin to replace doubt and confusion. Your energy changes, and people around you start responding differently. Opportunities that once felt invisible become noticeable. Decisions become easier because your mind is no longer divided. What you consistently think about eventually becomes what you act on, and what you act on repeatedly becomes the life you experience. A definite purpose gives your mind a clear direction, and without direction, the mind becomes scattered and weak. Most people move through life reacting instead of aiming. They wake up without a clear reason, respond to whatever appears in front of them, and end the day feeling exhausted but unfulfilled. Napoleon Hill believed that success begins the moment a person commits to one specific aim and refuses to let it go. When your purpose is clear, confusion disappears and your energy becomes focused. Having a definite purpose is not about wishing or hoping. It is about deciding. The moment you decide what you truly want, your mind starts organizing itself around that goal. Your thoughts, choices, and priorities begin to align. You start saying no to distractions that once consumed your time. You become more selective about where you invest your attention because now everything is measured against your purpose. Without a clear goal, motivation fades quickly. Effort feels heavy because there is no strong reason behind it. But when your purpose is defined, effort feels meaningful even when the work is difficult. Challenges no longer feel like punishment. They feel like part of the process. Every obstacle becomes a test of commitment rather than a reason to stop. A definite purpose also strengthens your confidence. When you know where you are going, doubt loses its power. Other people's opinions no longer shake you easily because your focus is internal, not external. You stop comparing your journey to others because you are committed to your own path. This inner certainty creates a sense of calm and control, even during uncertainty. Your purpose trains your mind to think long-term. Instead of chasing quick rewards or temporary comfort, you begin making decisions that serve your future self. Discipline becomes easier because your mind understands why sacrifices are necessary. Over time, this clarity builds momentum, and momentum creates belief. The more consistently you act with purpose, the more your mind accepts success as something natural and achievable rather than distant or unrealistic. Faith in yourself is not something you are born with, it is something you build through repeated experiences. Most people wait to feel confident before they act, but Napoleon Hill taught the opposite principle. Action comes first, and faith grows as a result of action. Every time you move forward despite fear, your mind receives proof that you are capable. Over time, these small victories begin to replace doubt with belief. Self-doubt often comes from past failures and negative conditioning. When you have been told repeatedly that you cannot succeed, your mind starts accepting those ideas as truth. Faith breaks this pattern by introducing a new mental atmosphere. Instead of replaying past mistakes, You consciously choose thoughts that support your growth. This does not mean denying fear. It means refusing to let fear control your decisions. Faith is closely connected to repetition. What you repeatedly tell yourself becomes a belief. When you consistently affirm your ability to learn, improve, and succeed, your subconscious mind begins to act in alignment with those thoughts. Your posture changes, your voice becomes firmer, and your decisions become more decisive. Others start sensing this inner strength even before you fully recognize it yourself. Developing faith also requires patience. Results may not appear immediately, and this is where many people give up. They mistake temporary delay for permanent failure. Hill emphasized that unwavering belief during slow progress is what separates successful individuals from the rest. Faith keeps you moving when evidence is limited and circumstances are uncertain. As faith grows, hesitation decreases. You stop overthinking every step and start trusting your judgment. Mistakes no longer feel like proof of weakness but part of learning. This shift creates momentum, and momentum reinforces belief. The more you act with faith, the more your mind accepts success as possible, and that acceptance quietly shapes your behavior, choices, and resilience under pressure. Persistence is the ability to continue moving forward when motivation disappears. Most people rely on emotion to drive their actions, but emotions are unstable. Napoleon Hill made it clear that success belongs to those who keep going long after excitement fades. The moment things become difficult is usually the moment progress is closest, yet this is where the majority stop. Persistence is what allows you to outlast resistance, doubt, and temporary defeat. Every worthwhile goal comes at obstacles, and these obstacles are not signs to quit. They are tests of seriousness. When you encounter resistance, your mind immediately looks for escape routes, excuses, and justifications to stop. Persistence trains the mind to stay committed regardless of comfort. Each time you refuse to quit, you strengthen your mental endurance, making the next challenge easier to face. Temporary failure is a natural part of progress. Many people misinterpret failure as a final outcome instead of feedback. Hill believed that within every failure lies the seed of equal or greater benefit. Persistence allows you to stay in the process long enough to discover that benefit. Without persistence, lessons remain hidden, and potential remains unused. Persistence also reshapes your identity. When you repeatedly show up despite fatigue, rejection, or slow results, you begin seeing yourself as someone who does not break under pressure. This self-image becomes powerful because your actions start matching that belief. Discipline replaces impulse, and consistency replaces bursts of effort. As persistence becomes a habit, fear loses its control. You stop being intimidated by long timelines and difficult paths. The mind becomes conditioned to endure discomfort without retreating. What once felt impossible begins to feel manageable, and what felt overwhelming becomes routine. Each step taken without quitting reinforces inner strength and deepens your commitment to the goal. Your environment constantly programs your thinking, whether you are aware of it or not. Every sound you hear, every conversation you engage in, and every piece of information you consume sends signals to your subconscious mind. Napoleon Hill warned that an unguarded mind becomes a breeding ground for fear, doubt, and limitation. When negativity surrounds you, it slowly reshapes your beliefs and weakens your confidence without you realizing it. People often underestimate how much influence others have over their mindset. When you are surrounded by individuals who complain, make excuses, or dismiss ambition, their attitudes begin to feel normal. Over time, their doubts become your doubts. You may start lowering your standards, questioning your goals, or feeling guilty for wanting more. This is why Hill emphasized the importance of choosing associations carefully, because your closest influences help shape your mental direction. Information is also part of your environment. What you watch, listen to, and read daily becomes mental input that affects your emotions and decisions. Constant exposure to fear-based news, criticism, and negative stories trains the mind to expect failure and danger. On the other hand, uplifting ideas, success stories, and disciplined thinking strengthen confidence and clarity. The mind responds to repetition, not truth, which makes conscious selection of input essential. Guarding your mind requires intentional boundaries. This does not mean isolating yourself from reality, but it does mean limiting unnecessary negativity. You become more aware of what drains your energy and what strengthens it. As you remove harmful influences, mental space opens for focus, creativity, and growth. A supportive environment reinforces belief and persistence. When your surroundings align with your goals, progress feels natural instead of forced. Encouraging words, constructive ideas, and positive reinforcement help stabilize your mindset during difficult moments. Over time, this carefully shaped environment becomes a source of strength that supports your ambition and keeps your thoughts aligned with growth rather than fear. Consistency over a focused period of time has the power to rewire the mind. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in 30 days. Napoleon Hill emphasized that lasting change is not created through sudden bursts of effort, but through disciplined repetition. When you commit to small, intentional actions every day, your mind begins to accept them as normal behavior rather than forced effort. Daily discipline removes the need for constant motivation. Instead of waiting to feel inspired, you act because it is part of your routine. The mind adapts quickly to patterns, and when positive actions are repeated consistently, resistance begins to fade. What once felt uncomfortable slowly becomes automatic. This is how habits are formed, and habits quietly shape identity. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Every day you follow through on your commitments, your self-respect increases. You start seeing yourself as someone who does what they say they will do. This internal trust is powerful because it strengthens confidence and reduces self-doubt. Missed promises weaken belief, but daily follow-through restores it. Over 30 days, the compound effect becomes visible. Small improvements in thinking behavior and focus begin to add up. You start noticing clearer decisions, better emotional control, and stronger discipline. These changes may seem subtle at first, but they create momentum that pushes you forward without force. The mind begins to resist inconsistency once discipline is established. Skipping actions feels uncomfortable because your identity has started to shift. You are no longer trying to change, you are becoming someone new through repeated behavior. This transformation happens quietly through daily structure and intentional practice, reshaping how you think, act, and respond to challenges. Control over your inner dialogue determines the direction of your life. Every moment, a voice inside your mind is interpreting events, judging situations, and defining who you are. Most people allow this voice to run unchecked, repeating fear, criticism, and limitation. Napoleon Hill understood that this inner conversation is one of the strongest forces shaping behavior. If your self-talk is negative, your actions will reflect hesitation and self-sabotage even when opportunities are present. The words you repeat internally influence how you see yourself. When your mind constantly says you are behind, unlucky, or incapable, your nervous system responds with stress and avoidance. You begin acting defensively instead of confidently. This inner resistance blocks creativity and bold decision-making. Over time, negative self-talk becomes a mental prison that keeps potential locked away. Changing this inner dialogue requires awareness and discipline. You begin noticing the thoughts that appear during pressure, failure, or uncertainty. Instead of accepting them as truth, you challenge and replace them. When doubt appears, you introduce stronger thoughts of capability and growth. This repetition gradually weakens old mental patterns and installs new ones that support progress. Positive self-talk is not about false optimism. It is about constructive control. You train your mind to speak in solutions rather than problems. This shift changes emotional responses and increases mental clarity. When the inner voice becomes supportive instead of destructive, action feels less intimidating and challenges feel manageable. As your inner dialogue improves, your self-image strengthens. You start trusting in decisions and maintaining composure under pressure. This internal stability affects how you communicate, how you carry yourself, and how others respond to you. A disciplined inner voice becomes a source of strength that guides your actions with confidence and purpose, shaping your behavior long before results appear. Your habits are the building blocks of your destiny, because repeated actions form automatic patterns that shape your life. Napoleon Hill emphasized that success is not an accident, it is the result of intentional daily routines compounded over time. Most people underestimate the power of small, consistent behaviors, thinking that only grand actions lead to meaningful change. Yet, the truth is that your daily choices, how you think, what you do, and how you respond, accumulate into your long-term results. Habits begin as conscious decisions but quickly become automatic when repeated consistently. Your mind and body learn to operate on autopilot, and this is why discipline is critical. Without structure, the mind defaults to convenience and comfort, which often leads to procrastination, distraction, and wasted energy. By deliberately creating habits that align with your goals, you redirect your mental and physical resources toward progress instead of stagnation. The formation of powerful habits also shapes your identity. When you perform small, productive actions every day, your subconscious mind begins to see you as the type of person who is disciplined, capable, and committed. This self-image becomes the foundation of behavior. You act in alignment with it naturally rather than forcing yourself. Over time, your habits reinforce your beliefs, and your beliefs reinforce your habits, creating a self-sustaining cycle of success. Another critical aspect is eliminating negative habits. Every destructive pattern, whether it's procrastination, overthinking, self-doubt, or distraction, consumes energy and weakens your potential. By identifying and consciously replacing these habits with constructive alternatives, you gradually reclaim control over your life. Hill stressed that replacing old habits takes patience and repetition, but persistence ensures that new behaviors eventually dominate. Habits also determine how you react under pressure. When your positive routines are ingrained, your response to challenges becomes predictable and effective. You don't panic or rely solely on willpower because the mind and body have been trained to operate in alignment with success principles. Over time, these habits transform obstacles into opportunities, failures into lessons, and ordinary days into consistent progress toward your ultimate goals. The cumulative power of habits is invisible at first. A single action may seem insignificant, but repeated consistently over 30 days, 90 days, or a year, it produces a profound shift in capability, mindset, and results. This is why Hill emphasized mastering habits. They silently guide your choices, strengthen your character, and quietly build the life you desire without relying on motivation, luck, or external validation. Clarity of thought is the foundation for every successful decision because a confused mind produces scattered actions. Napoleon Hill taught that most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they act without clear direction. When your thoughts are muddled, you waste energy on indecision, overanalyzing, and reacting impulsively to external circumstances. A mind trained for clarity knows what it wants, why it wants it, and how to take steps toward it with purpose. Developing clarity requires focus. Your brain is bombarded with thousands of thoughts every day, but only the ones you give attention to grow stronger. By choosing to focus on a single goal, plan, or principle, you allow your subconscious mind to align all resources toward achieving it. Hill emphasized that clarity turns vague desires into concrete objectives, and without this precision, even the strongest effort can drift aimlessly and produce minimal results. Clarity also eliminates fear and doubt. Uncertainty breeds hesitation because the mind cannot take action when it is unsure. When you define exactly what you want, your decisions become easier, your steps more confident, and your actions more consistent. Every choice is measured against your goal, and distractions lose their power because they no longer fit into your mental framework. The process of gaining clarity includes reflection, planning, and questioning assumptions. It means understanding your strengths, weaknesses, and priorities. When you consciously analyze your situation, you uncover patterns and opportunities that were previously hidden. Your mind begins to see solutions instead of obstacles, and the fog of indecision lifts, revealing the path forward. Clarity also improves efficiency. When your mind is organized and precise, you take fewer wrong turns and expend less energy on unnecessary tasks. Every action becomes purposeful, every decision deliberate, and every effort aligned with your larger vision. Hill taught that this alignment between thought and action is what separates successful individuals from those who work hard but remain stagnant. Over time, consistent clarity shapes not just your decisions but your character. You start approaching life with intention rather than reaction. Challenges are met with composure, opportunities are recognized quickly, and your confidence grows because your mind knows the direction it must take. Clear thinking becomes a habit, and once it is internalized, your life begins to unfold in a way that feels deliberate, empowered, and unstoppable. Emotional control is one of the most underestimated skills in achieving success because uncontrolled emotions cloud judgment and lead to impulsive actions. Napoleon Hill emphasized that the mind reacts to emotion more powerfully than logic. Fear, anger, jealousy, and impatience are like storms that distort perception and prevent clear thinking. People who allow their emotions to dictate behavior often sabotage opportunities, create unnecessary conflicts, and make choices they later regret. Controlling your emotions does not mean ignoring them. It means recognizing them, understanding their source, and consciously choosing your response. When you master emotional control, stress and pressure no longer dictate your behavior. Challenges that would overwhelm others become manageable because your mind remains steady. Instead of reacting, you respond. Instead of panicking, you analyze. This calmness allows you to see solutions and possibilities that remain invisible to those consumed by fear or frustration. Hill believed that emotional mastery is essential because it gives you the power to act decisively even when circumstances are difficult. Developing emotional control requires awareness and practice. You begin by noticing the triggers that provoke strong emotional reactions. Whether it's criticism, rejection, delays, or mistakes, you observe how your mind and body respond. Once you identify these triggers, you can implement strategies to remain composed, such as pausing before reacting, reframing the situation, or focusing on solutions rather than problems. Over time, these small steps train the nervous system to respond with discipline rather than instinct. Emotional control also strengthens relationships and communication. People are naturally drawn to those who remain calm and composed because they feel safe and understood. Leaders, innovators, and successful individuals often distinguish themselves not only by skill, but by the ability to maintain poise under pressure. Hill highlighted that emotional mastery enhances decision-making, because when the mind is not clouded by anxiety, resentment, or impatience, choices become rational, deliberate, and aligned with long-term goals. Consistent practice of emotional control builds resilience. You learn to accept setbacks without despair, criticism without defensiveness, and uncertainty without fear. Each time you successfully manage your emotions, your confidence grows, and the mind becomes stronger and more adaptable. Over time, emotional discipline becomes instinctive. It shapes your habits, guides your actions, and allows you to approach life with a sense of balance and clarity that significantly increases your chances of sustained success. Decision-making is the engine of success because indecision paralyzes action and opportunity. Napoleon Hill observed that most people fail not because they lack intelligence or resources, but because they hesitate when faced with choices. Indecision often comes from fear of failure, fear of judgment, or overanalyzing outcomes. When decisions are delayed, momentum is lost, opportunities slip away, and self-doubt grows stronger. The ability to make clear, confident decisions, even imperfect ones, sets successful apart from those who drift through life waiting for circumstances to dictate their path. Making effective decisions begins with clarity of purpose. When your goals are clearly defined, decisions become easier because you can measure each option against your desired outcome. Hill emphasized that the subconscious mind responds to definite decisions. Once you commit mentally, your actions follow naturally. Hesitation, on the other hand, signals uncertainty to the mind, which then looks for reasons to avoid action, reinforcing doubt and indecision. Confidence in decision-making grows through practice. Every choice you make, even small ones, trains your mind to trust itself. Starting with daily decisions, what tasks to prioritize, how to spend your time, what attitude to adopt. You build a mental framework that strengthens with repetition. Hill stressed that decisiveness is a habit that compounds over time. The more decisions you make, the more comfortable and natural the process becomes. Avoiding procrastination is also crucial. Many people mistake careful planning for wisdom, but over-planning often becomes a mask for fear. Hill noted that successful individuals balance analysis with timely action. They gather enough information to make informed choices, but refuse to wait for perfect conditions. Imperfect decisions executed consistently are more powerful than flawless decisions delayed indefinitely. Decision-making is also tied to accountability. When you commit to a choice, you take responsibility for the outcome, learning from both successes and failures. Each decision becomes a lesson that sharpens judgment, increases resilience, and strengthens confidence. Over time, this consistent practice of making decisive, informed choices rewires the mind, transforming hesitation into certainty and enabling progress that feels purposeful and unstoppable. Finally, decisive action creates momentum. Once a decision is made, energy flows toward execution, attracting resources, opportunities, and support. Hill emphasized that inertia is broken only through action, and every choice propels you forward. The act of deciding cultivates courage, reinforces belief in yourself, and trains the mind to operate proactively, ensuring that your life moves in alignment with your rather than drifting aimlessly in reaction to circumstances. Self-discipline is the cornerstone of lasting success because talent, intelligence, or luck alone cannot sustain achievement without control over your actions. Napoleon Hill emphasized that self-discipline is what turns desires into results, dreams into reality, and plans into consistent progress. Most people have good intentions, but without the ability to regulate their behavior, they are easily swayed by impulses, distractions, and short-term gratification. Discipline trains the mind and body to act in alignment with long-term goals, even when motivation is low or circumstances are difficult. Developing self-discipline begins with awareness of the habits and impulses. Every day presents countless opportunities to choose comfort over progress, excuses over effort, or distraction over focus. Hill taught that recognizing these moments is the first step to mastery. Once you are aware of your tendencies, you can intentionally redirect your energy toward productive actions. This conscious control strengthens the mental muscles needed to resist temptation and maintain focus on what truly matters. Self-discipline is also built through small, consistent practices. It is not about forcing dramatic change overnight, but creating routines that enforce positive behaviors repeatedly. Waking up at the same time each day, prioritizing essential tasks, controlling emotional reactions, and maintaining focus on goals are all examples of incremental discipline. Each repetition reinforces your ability to act deliberately, and over time, these routines become automatic, reducing reliance on willpower alone. A disciplined mind is less vulnerable to external influence. People who lack self-control are easily manipulated by opinion, fear, or momentary pleasure. Hill emphasized that success requires independence of thought and action, which can only be achieved through mastery over oneself. The more you practice self-discipline, the less reactive you become, and the more proactive you can be in shaping your destiny. Self-discipline also strengthens resilience. Challenges, delays, and failures test your commitment, but a disciplined mind does not waver in the face of temporary setbacks. Instead, it adapts, persists, and finds solutions. Each time you maintain discipline despite difficulty, your confidence grows, your habits solidify, and your focus sharpens. Over time, self-discipline becomes the invisible engine driving all the principles of success, turning intention into action and potential into measurable results. Finally, self-discipline enhances every area of life. It regulates thoughts, emotions, habits, and decisions, creating alignment between what you desire and what you do. Hill argued that without discipline, even the most powerful mindset cannot achieve consistent results. By mastering yourself, you lay the foundation for mastery over circumstances, relationships, opportunities, and ultimately, your own life. Positive visualization is one of the most powerful tools for achieving success because the mind responds to images as if they are real experiences. Napoleon Hill taught that what the mind can clearly see and feel, it can eventually create. Most people underestimate this principle, thinking that success depends solely on effort or external conditions. Yet, the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual ones. When you consistently visualize your goals, your mind begins to generate the thoughts, ideas, and behaviors necessary to turn those images into reality. Visualization works by creating a mental blueprint. When you see yourself achieving a goal, whether it's speaking confidently, completing a project, or reaching a financial milestone, your brain starts aligning your decisions and actions toward that outcome. Hill emphasized that repeated visualization strengthens belief because it makes abstract goals concrete in your mind. The more detailed and emotionally charged the visualization, the stronger the effect, because the mind begins to experience the achievement as already real. The process requires clarity and emotional involvement. It's not enough to picture a vague idea. You must engage your senses and emotions as if the goal has already been accomplished. Feel the satisfaction, hear the applause, see the results, and immerse yourself fully in the experience. This emotional connection signals to the subconscious that the goal is important, increasing motivation and directing energy toward practical steps that support the vision. Visualization also strengthens confidence. When you repeatedly see yourself succeeding, the mind starts to accept that success is possible. Fear, doubt, and hesitation begin to lose their grip because the inner image of success outweighs imagined failure. Hill noted that many people fail not because they lack skill, but because they cannot mentally picture themselves succeeding, which prevents action. Consistent practice of visualization primes the mind to notice opportunities. Your awareness shifts toward possibilities that align with your goals. When challenges arise, a visualized outcome provides a reference point, helping you stay focused and persistent instead of discouraged. Over time, visualization becomes a mental rehearsal that improves decision-making, emotional control, and problem-solving, creating a powerful synergy between imagination and action. Finally, visualization reinforces the law of attraction. By holding clear, positive images of success in your mind, you attract resources, ideas, and people that support your goals. Hill emphasized that the subconscious mind begins working quietly behind the scenes, aligning thoughts, decisions, and energy toward the imagined reality, making it more likely to materialize in the physical world. Taking responsibility for your life is the cornerstone of true empowerment, because it shifts control from external circumstances to your own choices. Napoleon Hill emphasized that people who blame others, circumstances, or luck for their failures remain trapped in a cycle of helplessness and frustration. When you accept full responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and outcomes, you reclaim the power to change anything in your life. Most people live passively, reacting to situations instead of proactively shaping them, and this lack of ownership keeps them stuck in mediocrity. Responsibility begins with awareness. You must recognize that your current reality is the cumulative result of your past thoughts, decisions, and habits. Hill taught that blaming others is a convenient escape, but it prevents growth because it ignores the one factor you can truly control: yourself. When you embrace responsibility, you stop giving your power away and start focusing on solutions instead of excuses. Taking responsibility also strengthens self-discipline. Once you understand that your results are your own doing, the need for consistent action becomes clear. Laziness, procrastination, and indecision are no longer acceptable because they directly affect your outcomes. Responsibility motivates you to act with intention, to set goals deliberately, and to follow through on commitments, knowing that your life's direction depends entirely on your choices. This mindset also builds resilience. Life will inevitably present setbacks, failures, and disappointments, but when you take responsibility, you approach challenges with a solution-oriented perspective. Instead of whining or blaming, you analyze what went wrong, learn from mistakes, and adjust your strategy. Hill emphasized that the ability to recover quickly and take corrective action is a defining trait of successful individuals. Taking responsibility improves relationships and influence. People naturally respect those who own their actions and decisions because they demonstrate integrity, accountability, and reliability. By being answerable for your words and behavior, you set a standard for others and attract cooperation rather than conflict. Finally, embracing responsibility empowers your mind. You stop waiting for permission, luck, or external validation, and you begin to act from a place of control and confidence. Hill highlighted that this principle creates freedom, because when you accept that you are the author of your life, you no longer feel at the mercy of chance or circumstance. Every choice becomes deliberate, every action intentional, and every result a reflection of your commitment to owning your destiny.